Good afternoon, Rajesh. And thank you very much for joining us today for the Fireside Chat session. It's my absolute privilege to do this session with you, and I'm really looking forward to ask you all the questions. So
Yeah,
thank you very much for joining in, sir.
yeah, pleasure is mine, Poorva, anytime.
So it's been some time, Rajesh, since we last connected with you. And with the business recovering slowly and steadily, we thought it's a great time to do a fireside chat. Before we start, we want to understand how have you been doing? So have you had started venturing out to shopping malls, grocery shops, or is it work from home for you? How is it?
Mhm. Good question. As I guess the economic activity in general opening up across the board. No, to be honest, from my point of view, not necessarily venturing out for shopping malls and all of that. In fact, even pre-COVID times, that used to be my normal. I mean, I would hardly go to shopping malls unless I get pushed by the family. So large part of the shopping in any case happens online, but I did venture out to take family out for a night out just in the
Wow.
near nation because everyone was kind of fatigued, you know, waiting to just get out because we've been just confined to our homes for many months now. So it was
Yes.
natural. I think everybody at home was restless. Literally, I think we were almost kind of done with each other, kind of a thing, staying at one place. So I think that was just a welcome break, but just it was short and sweet. But outside of that, the life has been pretty much working from home, actually, round the clock. In between, we started going to office, just once or twice a week for certain meetings, just obviously following social distancing and all other norms and all. But that also we took a break because we had a case or two that came up as positive. But largely for the last 6 months, largely it's working from home.
Yes, yes. I completely agree with you, Rajesh, because I think earlier we could travel at the drop of a hat. And who would have thought that travel will become such a big project altogether? But I think, Rajesh, good to see that there have been some positive developments in the overall travel space. So, we can see that people have started taking weekend getaways after this prolonged lockdown. Everybody is bored. And I think you mentioned in the last interview that a couple of weekends, all the resorts near Delhi and Bangalore were full because people want to venture out, they are bored. Also, domestic flights have started operating with limited restrictions. We see interstate, intrastate car and bus services have resumed, of course, with restrictions, but they have resumed. Also, you rightly mentioned in the last interview that domestic hotel bookings have also started, but yes, with limited restrictions. So, in lieu of all these developments, Rajesh, what do you feel? How do you see the overall customer behavior going in the next few months? We have already started witnessing some bookings, people have started traveling. How do you see the subsequent quarters?
Hmm. No, you're absolutely right. So it's been actually a desperate, painful, long wait, to be honest. And who would have thought, like you rightly pointed out, who would have thought that, the world would come to standstill, literally, right? People will just completely stop traveling and all of that. And I guess that happened because of this COVID crisis, because, everybody was obviously worried about the health first before they could venture out. But we're very happy to see now the recovery actually for the last few weeks, it has been absolutely day on day kind of recovery that is happening as the unlock of the country is going to the next version. Across the board, the activity is opening up. And that's very, very heartening to know. All across the segments, we have seen whether it is drivable distance, venturing out for a holiday, short break, and those kind of hotels and properties, especially over the weekends or long weekends, have been completely chock-a-block. So there's clear pent-up demand there, which is very heartening to know. Because and people had started to think, and that is what our belief was all this while, and it's kind of getting proved as well, that the world is not going to stop moving around. I mean, contrary to everyone's belief that everything will get done on Zoom, is not going to happen. It's just never
Yes,
happen,
yes.
right? So people would get out for their essential travel, visiting families, business travel, leisure travel. So it's a matter of time that even the long haul international travel, etc., would open. It'll take some time, but it will definitely open. Yes, consumers would behavior would change a bit. This whole fear, apprehension has to or be addressed in terms of, are they going to be safe traveling? Would there be adequate hygiene protocols followed by the ultimate service providers and all? And it's a
Sure.
very natural thing to happen. It's an extremely natural thing to happen because you would be the fear. But I have seen off late, and again, that is you know, that is India for us. I would say whether it is good or bad, would rather not comment. But that's us, right? I mean, I'm not sure we are. I think we move on very quickly as well. The public memory is very short as the things are opening up, and I can see people are just roaming around and doing it. At some level, it is risky, and therefore I think it's our endeavor also is to keep creating the awareness about this self-discipline if we want to see the activity opening up more and more, because it's important for all of them, and it's important for better employment, earning your living and getting back to your normal routine and so on. So for that you need some precaution, and I think we'll have to keep pushing the awareness as much as we can as being the market leader. But in general, I think it's just very good to see across the segments, travel opening up. Just yesterday, just to give you a very quick kind of a data point that I just got it from the team today morning, and I was just looking at the other reports of the business today morning. Both bus segments and rail segments saw the new peak,
Wow.
and absolutely. I mean, and in terms of daily number of bookings, number of seats booked, etc. Bus crossed 50,000. Actually, was 54,000 seats sold yesterday, and rail, just because more some 50, 80 odd trains got added, we had some 70-80% jump day on day. So I think it's just very good, very positive. I just keep my fingers crossed, given that the numbers are still pretty high, overall COVID numbers. I'm keeping my fingers crossed, that actually praying and wishing that people take precautions, and keeping my fingers crossed to make sure that we keep getting some sort of respite, and the fatality rate doesn't go up, given the overall numbers are going up.
That's a very encouraging news, sir. I'm sure all the Go trippers would really find it very positive and motivating. You also mentioned, Rajesh, that you took a brief family holiday. Would you like to tell us more about your experience?
No, it was great. It was really, really welcome break. Although and that typically happens with my break all the time, and some of the listeners would probably relate with that. That no matter what, any break, there will be one matter or two matters that will come on that particular day, and then I might be on. And that happened, and this was not any different. I think I was with the folks a couple of times on phone during the break. But that aside, and that's kind of part of our life, given that we are a 24/7 kind of an operations. But I think otherwise it was actually quite a welcome break, except for a little nervousness when I saw a lot of people just lowering their guard when they come to the restaurants and have food and so on and so forth. In fact, I ended up telling a few of them I couldn't resist myself, because it was important for them, not only for them, for all of us as well, right? So, but otherwise, it was a good quality time spent with family, four of us, and we were listening to the music and having food and enjoying our drinks, and then chit chatting. I mean, all kinds of stuff, right? This is typical family time, but it was pretty good.
Great, great. Rajesh, another big change in our life post-COVID is the advent of work from home, new normal. So we are now going to operate in a hybrid model with 60% of our workforce working from office and remaining working from home. What do you think will be needed from our managers and go trippers to adapt to this new working model and to ensure that we work productively?
Yeah, no, I think it's a really good question, and that's sort of a new normal that's kind of coming up, and keeping the safety in of everybody's mind. And luckily the technology is kind of helping making this whole overall experience pretty seamless. If you really see in terms of whatever meetings that you have to do at whatever time, that it's been pretty smooth operation. In fact, for the last few months, there has been probably more productivity than before. The way we think about this is that even going forward, I think it's likely to continue, given that we are not going to suddenly start compromising on all the safety measures that we need to take in office, including social distancing and so on. So it's not likely that the office will be fully operational, and there will be, maybe it's just become a long-term new normal as well, that there's a certain amount of your workforce would continue to keep working from home. So if that happens, so obviously the first thing that the managers and the leaders need to do is to adapt to this change and quickly kind of reset their own mind, that how do they want to now operate in this new normal, where there is going to be a possibility that you might not have all these people that you wanted in a room and do the whiteboarding with them. There will be a couple of them who might be on Zoom, and the others might be there, or any other kind of permutation or combination of that. So from that point of view, I think it will require adjustment and flexibility, and I think we should all be ready for that. We should all be trying to make those adjustments to kind of make sure that we adapt this change, and then keep operating and ensuring no productivity loss. At the end of the day, we will have to obviously in one way or the other end up delivering our business goals and stuff like that, right? So
Yes.
and some of those things, and it does get some of this. I was doing the team meeting the other day, and one of the groups was saying that sometimes it gets very boring. Sometimes it's kind of working from home, life at home and life at work is kind of boundaries are getting blurred now. So what do we do? So I think, and that is one of the things that we all need to be cognizant of as well. And maybe there are ways of introducing some kind of group meetings where you have even virtually try to do some fun activities, try to do celebrate birthdays and the anniversaries, and do informal chat sessions rather than just talking shop all the time. And maybe cognizant of offer the flexibility of people. Sometimes people might be having a particular situation at home, and they may or may not be available. So kind of offer all of those flexibilities and keep pushing the ownership, which I'm a big fan of. So as long as a person is taking ownership of delivery, working together, I think we should offer the flexibility, because that would be required in terms of availability and stuff, especially when anybody has a situation at home. I guess that's how we will have to approach it. And guess what? For the last 6 months, we've been operating, and we've been operating quite effectively. So
Yes.
I think get used to any new situation quite fast, and given that we've been in a technology business, it hasn't really been, from an infrastructure standpoint, hasn't really been difficult from our point of view.
Yes, yes. And I think it's also very important for the teams to stay connected. So there are teams, Rajesh, who have been religiously celebrating birthdays, anniversaries, and a lot of events together, right? I mean, sometimes they just have a random coffee meet, and people just come chit chat and discuss their issues. So I think that ways people stay bonded. And you very rightly mentioned that you should not always talk shop. Sometimes it's just important to come together and talk about other stuff. Also, there was one point which you mentioned, Rajesh, and which I think speaks about the positive of work from home, is that since we are cutting down on the commute time, we have been able to focus on thinking more. So you had mentioned a lot of taken product projects about which we were thinking about, and we have not been getting the time to execute because business as usual.
Yeah. No, absolutely, and that is what I was alluding to. For the last 5-6 months, not only product and tech team, I mean, largely definitely them, because they were just kind of attacking some of those projects, but some of the other, even the business teams, supply teams, whatever support that was needed, they were all together there to attack those projects. the customer service team, the CS team, not necessarily only the delivery unit, just front-ending all the customer issues, but also working on a long-term solution for the customers to make sure that we give them painless experience. So it has been actually amazing. In fact, I was just sharing it with the team the other day, also with our we've been having many investor interactions as well of late after our quarterly results. A lot of these highlights that we've been kind of highlighting it to the world as well, that how did we approach looking at getting back to the drawing board and actually focusing on some of the projects that we had not been able to do it in the past, and keeping ourselves busy, and the kind of productivity that we saw was amazing. And all the credit goes to the team. It's really an awesome job done in the circumstances. It's really heartening to see how people came together, the team came together, with all the leaders also kind of working absolutely relentlessly, round the clock, Saturdays, Sundays, and delivered on some of those key projects as well. And then it reached a point when Sanjay and I were talking the other day that, and there has been a little bit of a burnout, as people have been complaining as well. And therefore, listening to that feedback immediately, we started doing some correction as well. And I think it is need of the hour. We need to do that. We should never forget one of the values that we have, right? And that's fun at work. Now, if you're not at work, the work is happening virtually. Then how do I bring the fun element here? And and you guys, the whole HR team, always kind of keeps intervening from that point of view always as well. And I guess you will have to innovate to bring that element now virtually, right? I mean, we've been doing all kinds of events to recognize people and having fun together and all that. So now those physical events may not happen anytime soon, but can we be innovative enough to be able to introduce that fun? And we must not lose that. If we lose that, it's not going to be, I don't think people are going to be able to enjoy it long term. It's not long term sustainable. You can't just be, like a, only one-way street and keep kind of working, and it gets very boring. It's just not then fun. So
Absolutely.
just need to do that as well. We need to, last 6 months was quite painful and stressful for anyone and everyone, right? I mean, in more than one ways, and new change in life and so on and so forth. So how do we now try to bring it back, some bit of, fun element, relaxation, and so on, so that we are re-energized. And now, guess what? The business recovery is coming up. So we need to now focus and get our business back on track to as quickly as possible to pre-COVID levels.
Rajesh, there is one query which we keep getting from most of the Go trippers. So since we are primarily working from home, uh, some of our colleagues have gone back to their native place. Some of them are staying with their parents. Some of them have moved back. So what would be the right timeline for them to start thinking of coming back to the base location to operate? And this query is more in line with the fact that many people stay at PG, rented accommodations, and would possibly need to renew their leases.
Yeah, no, I heard this feedback, from Sanjay and Yuvraj, and it's been coming back. And my suggestion there was that, obviously it doesn't look like that, like I mentioned earlier, doesn't look like that we are going to be, in the next few months, that we'll be opening up office with 100% strength, right? It's not likely given the situation of COVID right now, and keeping in mind the safety measures and so on, despite the fact that actually office staff has done a wonderful job of just whatever needs to be done to make people safe when they come back to work. But it will still be safer for us to be able to open the offices in a graded manner. So I think it'll be okay, for people to be operating from wherever they are operating from, and maybe just let go their PG facility, maybe for a month, couple of months, and all of that. But I would also say that keep little flexibility. Sometimes you can get some pleasant surprises. So from our point of view, we would be supportive of everything possible, practically possible. But at the same time, my also submission would be that show some sort of flexibility, just in case if we had to get people back. and I'm pretty sure there will be availability of PGs and so on. So it's not that there is going to be suddenly non-availability of accommodations and so on, and we can also help and facilitate get them back in terms of finding up the place if there is any difficulty. So the team can definitely help. So keep little bit more flexibility in your mind, but it'll be okay if in the next couple of months that you want to just keep operating from home. I would obviously also say, I don't think it is fair for me to be able to take that call. I would also, kind of defer this to the respective manager and the leader as well, given that they are more closer to their teams in terms of, um, how are they coordinating between themselves, etc. But directionally, I would say, and I think we're all aligned on that, and that should be fine. Subject to just talking to their own, finding out their own rhythm with their respective teams and the managers and leaders.
Rajesh, you have mentioned in one of your interviews, which I really liked and which I really found very helpful, was that mobility is important. The economy can't sustain without mobility, but you have to embrace the economy with consciousness. I think what happens is the moment the restrictions are lifted, people start forgetting the rules, which leads to another problem area for us. So I personally feel, Rajesh, if we follow the rules and embrace the economy and continue working, I think that will solve a lot of problems.
It will, and then that is what I was mentioning when I was saying that people tend to lower the guard. Unfortunately, I tend to take it casually. I had to go to the hospital to show some reports the other day, and I was shocked what I saw out there. And therefore, at some level, I think in our country, I think maybe we are probably relying too much on immunity, and it might go down the path of herd immunity because of what I saw the other day. Because there's a lot of people without mask, actually, in a group together, forget social distancing, forget any kind of protection, and so on. And that tends to happen. It is quite unfortunate. And not necessarily I can't I would keep blaming our own country and our own people. I've seen a lot of the people even in the Western countries kind of getting into that as well. So I guess we will have to just keep doing our best in terms of whatever we can do in terms of creating awareness. But I think every individual will have to at some level be conscious and take some ownership of this if we want the overall country to get out of this quickly, right? I mean, otherwise, it's just going to take more lives. Unfortunately, it is just going to delay opening up the economy, and nobody really wants that, right? And everybody kind of wants to get back to their work and start earning their living. So so I guess that's what we will have to continue to keep doing. I guess at our own level, do your best, make sure that at least from your point of view, take all the precautions so that it starts with you first, and then hopefully others would also take and keep creating awareness, and then hope for the best.
Absolutely, Rajesh. We all are keeping our fingers crossed. Talking about health and safety, Rajesh, there is one team which is working round the clock. That's our admin team to ensure the health and safety standards of our employees. So, would you like to tell all the Go Truppers more about the efforts that are going
Yeah,
behind this?
absolutely. And it is not only admin team. It's admin team, HR team, IT infra team. I think anybody who is working closely to make sure that when people come back to work, and they want to make sure that the operating environment is pretty safe, and all the precautions are taken. They've done a fantastic job, and they always do. They're always the dark horses behind the scene, and we must acknowledge and recognize their efforts and their hard work. Every single kind of changed environment, every time, whether it's a big event or a small event or a difficult event or an emergency, these teams are always available 24 by 7. I mean, working from home, by the way, has also been a big, I realized when I was kind of struggling with my own Wi-Fi here, that people are always available to help to make sure that, you're all kind of, uh, the IT tools and the connectivity, etc., is all in place. Now it all takes a huge effort, so it's not that it's an easy thing to do. It's all behind the scene. But guess what? If this is not working, we would not be as effective as we are. We would not be talking constant, non-stop, leveraging technology and so on. So, yeah, I would like to absolutely take this opportunity to thank each one of them for their hard work and effort. And God bless them. I mean, they've been also taking some amount of risk, but take all the precautions, keep doing your best, make sure you don't take it easy, lead by example, and keep rocking.
Uh, Rajesh, the last 6 months have been like a roller coaster ride for the all of us with the work from home, lockdown, and everything. What are some of the positives that we can look at from the past 6 months?
Well, there are plenty of them. If you really start thinking about it, but one or two that comes to my mind, which could be, probably the biggest learning. And I guess I was sharing it with some of the other group meetings that I was doing earlier. I think it makes you realize that, this whole thing, when it came out of the blue, nobody really had an idea that in today's modern world, anything can happen. I mean, the catastrophe can be of a different order, which you will probably not even ever imagine or dream of, right? I mean, that is the reality in the modern world today. And so therefore, expect anything that could potentially happen. And therefore, what you should do is to not necessarily, of course, you would do your own routine planning for future to keep your future safe and all of that. But, make sure that your present is well oiled, and then you're enjoying that present moment, and stay in present and keep living that present very happily, and don't think too much into the future. And we used to say it more for the internet industry that you can't actually predict the future beyond maybe max 2 years, because that by then the technology changes happen, and it's highly unpredictable. And now I don't know whether you can project even a quarter, or you can even, during this crisis, probably you would learn that you can't even have a next quarter predictability. But I guess the larger point is that live in present, and make sure that you keep doing yourself. And like I said, of course, it goes without saying that you will do whatever your fundamental future planning is required for your financial security and your family, etc. But that aside, everything else should be focused on present, and what we are doing and what we are trying to do, and make sure you putting your best foot forward, and the outcome will fall in place. So that, I guess, is one of them. And then the second, the biggest one, at least for me personally, was also that you feel even more humble and grounded. It really makes you feel that, because and I think a lot of the people who sometimes, and we all get into it, right, sometimes complain and crib and all of that, the more I see outside, and more I saw, especially when the whole country was locked down, the issues that the migrant laborers were facing, um, the rest of the world, and you suddenly realize that how privileged are you in terms of your own setup as compared to the rest of the world, and rest of the Indian population, where the large part of the population was suffering a hell of a lot of a different order than any one of us were, right? For instance, so I think it should only make you feel more, um, I guess we should all be grateful to what we have and what we possess, and grateful to whichever is the power that we believe in. But be grounded and be humble all the time, and try to help people who you could potentially do. So I guess that's also a very, I guess, another level of feeling that or learning that one had. And these are some of the learnings from a learning standpoint. I guess working from home, living through the new normal for the last 6 months.
Absolutely. I think you very rightly mentioned, Rajesh, that one needs to stay humbled and grounded. And I think now we are starting to focus on our basics again. More of family time, which we used to crave earlier, and now there is a prolonged family time. People are stuck at home. On a lighter note, somebody was telling me that everybody is eating healthy now. I think,
Talking about that, actually, yes, there was actually a very big positive that happened at our place. So Ayush, who's my eldest son,
yes,
he's actually a big fan of eating outside, right? So he was like almost every day he had to order something, and we weren't allowing initially. And then what would he end up doing? And he's also a non-veg vegetarian, and he would not necessarily enjoy the ghar ka khana, if you will, and then he didn't know what to do, and he got into learning how to cook. So he became like a chef, and I was quite amazed the kind of skills that he picked up. And the beneficiary of that was also all of us, the rest of the family. So I think, yeah, some of these unique things, you are absolutely right. I mean, at least one of the things that positive things that had happened out of it, both of us are working, or all three of us are working, but at least, wife used to work largely from home, or maybe half day at work, half day from home. But Ayush and I would be out, and we would always be late from office. In fact, if I'm not late, then he would be late. He would be more late than I would be, because, the early stage of his career. And we will never have dinner together. And now we could at least have one meal, and we decided that we were having dinner together. That was welcome change. I mean, for the last now many months at least, we're having many. And guess what? And he's cooking and we're eating. So nothing could be better than that. So some positives that came out of this.
great, great. Last question, Rajesh, and some part of it you have already mentioned. What should we go trippers look forward to in the coming few months, besides hopefully finding a cure for COVID?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think we'll have to now start to shift gear to get back to our old normal, not new normal. And new normal from an operating standpoint, we'll keep discovering, and we have already discovered quite a bit. And I'm specifically saying from a point of view of business recovery. I think we are on our way now. And I think it is positive. I know everybody is kind of happy looking at the numbers coming back and all of that, and getting excited with it. And they will see more and more of this happening, fingers crossed on COVID. And we should just shift gears and shift focus back to what we might have forgotten, because we were busy doing a lot of the projects, and saying what is now the business recovery rhythm that we are going to get. And I think we'll be feeling, every month we will touch new peak, and we'll be feeling more excited about it. So we should look forward to a lot of the positivity going forward in terms of recovery of the business, and I'm pretty sure that everybody is looking forward to that. And at the same time, not, I would say, lower their own guard in terms of taking precautions. That will be my humble request to everyone, because more you would do it, I mean, you don't want to create more trouble for either yourself or your family or friends. And so therefore we should be careful on that. But hopefully a worst is behind us. Again, I do fingers crossing, toe crossing multiple times when I say this. But I'm quite hopeful that from here on, it's only going to be positive news from a business recovery standpoint.
Absolutely. And I'm just tempted to add one more thing, Rajesh, that when we talk of business recovery, despite the COVID and lockdown situation, I think this has been an action-packed quarter for all of us in terms of some new project launches like flight charters and GCC, my partner. So I think people are also seeing new projects coming up, and I'm sure that will add to the motivation levels also.
Oh, absolutely, plenty of them, and not to miss Trip Money, the
Yes,
platform extension that has happened, and not to forget the amount of work in the core existing products, whether it was a bus or an intercity cab, or flights and the hotels. There is the enormous amount of work that is happening, and across the board, enormous amount of work that has happened. And that is what I would like to congratulate everyone for their hard work and commitment that they've shown for the, and it was much needed, and thanks for that. And now I think the time the future time is going to actually bear fruits out of all these projects as we recover the business and as the macro gets better.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time, Rajesh. I think we have got some really valuable insights from you about the overall business perspective. And I think what I like the most is how to draw positivity out of this current situation. I think that's very important for all of us. In the end, I just want to say, sir, all the best to all of us. Things are sure to continue looking up.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much. It was lovely chatting with you, Poorva.
Thank you. Thank you, Rajesh.